Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome. I am joining you, as I wrote in the notes, from Fargo, North Dakota. Today is our first day of school here in Fargo. So dropped off my kiddos, and I'm excited to talk to all of you about how do we develop innovators. And as I dropped my kids off this morning, I was reminded deeply about my why. So we'll get into that as we talk about practical tools to build changemaker skills. So as Michelle said, I'm Darcy Bakkegard. I'm the co-founder of the Educators Lab. I was a high school English and theater teacher for 13 years. So that's my background in the classroom. And for the last 9 years, almost 10, I've been designing professional development. I work with Michelle and run the Educators Lab. And through that, I've designed several different things for professional learning. Two that I'll mention, I designed something called the Joy Lab, and it is practical problem solving rooted in the science of joy. How do we tap into the energy that joy provides for us so that we can actively solve the problems that are decreasing our educator joy and create more joy for ourselves and those around us? I also run the Teacher Empowerment Incubator, which is a pilot here in North Dakota. It's a deep dive problem solving team of 12 teachers from around the state. They're rural educators who don't have access to a lot of professional development. Their schools don't have instructional coaches, things like that. And so we work together as a team and individually to identify community challenges. And then the teachers work with their students to design solutions to those needs right in their school or community. And the program provides some funding to help get those programs off the ground. In my personal life, I'm an auntie 16 times over. I'm a wife, a sister, a daughter, and I'm a triplet mom. So those are my three kiddos with me, and they just started first grade today. So why? Why are we talking about developing change makers? A couple big whys for me. First, I feel like there is a big disconnect between the professional learning that we provide to educators and the skill set that we are asking them to demonstrate in the classroom and help build for their students. So basically, if we want teachers to have more learner-centered, problem-based learning experiences for students, I feel and firmly believe that we need to be creating that same type of professional learning experience for the. This is also important because it helps teachers reconnect to their why as educators and really get back to the heart of what matters, which is improving the lives of our students, right? I became a teacher because I wanted to help kids. And so when we shift professional learning to that focus, it helps teachers stay motivated and engaged as educators. In addition to that, this is still what a lot of people think of when they think of a classroom, at least here in the United States. But the reality is, this is not what we're asking teachers to do anymore. And if this is all a classroom is, then some of these suggestions like AI robots would be able to teach classrooms. But kids in desks is not the future or even the present of education. We need dynamic problem solvers. We need to develop curious learners. And we need to develop kids who have the courage and the skill set to try hard things. So this is my daughter. Her name is Cora, and this is her. We live in North Dakota. We're right by Minnesota. This is our frozen lake last winter. And that is my beautiful child doing a headstand on the lake. And they really are the heart of my why. My kids remind me every day that when we're young, our minds and our bodies are a bit more agile. And I want us to help all students flip problems upside down and look at them from new perspectives. And Michelle and I have talked endlessly for years that all problems are just opportunities for action. We need innovators. We need change makers. And so let's talk about some tools and strategies that would allow us as the adults in the room to help develop kids as change makers and innovators. So first, Michelle and I wrote in our book, the Startup Teacher Playbook, this idea of a teacher as a learning designer. A much more complex, rich definition than the stereotype of what a teacher does, right? And if you look at all of those things and all of those different descriptions and all of those different pictures, being an educator is a truly fascinating, difficult, but amazing profession that allows us to do so much. This summer, I did a gear up back to school and used some of the tools that I'm going to share with you. And this was the feedback I received from a PE teacher. I think that we can, when we dive into professional development or any classroom setting that is rooted in authentic problem solving, we help people take ownership and control of the problems they face, and they're ready to tackle those problems, and those problems don't seem so scary or daunting anymore. And that's what we want. Our kids are facing some really scary challenges in the world, and we want them to know that they have the skill set and the mindset to help design solutions to those challenges, not just have to live in a world that feels so overwhelmingly full of problems. So there are 2 steps in general, I think, for any of you to take in your personal life, your professional life, and as you're working with young people. We need to identify opportunities. Where are there needs for us to take action? And we then need to organize our ideas. We need to organize our response to those opportunities. So Michelle will share in the links, and we have these linked in the slide deck that we'll share with you. There are some opportunities, some graphic organizers that I've designed to help identify opportunities of just some basic brainstorming of, it can be as simple as what works, what doesn't work, what are some of the mandates, some of the tasks that you are required to do, what are some things that just are clunky or causing you irritation or students irritation, where is there pushback? So this getting started needs tool can help you identify some of those opportunities. But honestly, if you just listen to what people are complaining about, that will give you a lot of insights. So as you're sitting there, throw in the chat, what are some of the things that people around you, either young people, colleagues, friends, family members, what are they complaining about? What are some of the things that are on their mind and causing them to be frustrated or less happy, less satisfied? What is, so to speak, what do you hear at the water cooler? Once you've identified those opportunities, the Educator Canvas is a great way to help you organize the information to help you tackle and implement a solution. This is a simple one-pager that Michelle and I worked together to create. She took the inspiration of the business model canvas and we adapted it to teachers. As I've worked with teachers, the thing that I hear most often is a teacher will have an amazing idea. And as a teacher, I heard this in students. They'll have a great idea, and then they will butt themselves into not even trying anything. And it's really frustrating because we have all of this potential sitting there, but there's so much fear and hesitancy, and whether it's fear of failure or the fear of just being told no, past experiences where they have tried things and then they got in trouble, so to speak, for trying those things. There's a lot of yeah buts and hesitation around innovation. And so this is in part designed to help you anticipate some of those no's, some of those yeah buts, and design what are you going to try? What might it look like? And to test run an idea to see if it's feasible. So we will share the link to this educator canvas with all of you. It's a free download from the Startup Teacher Playbook.com. And you can access that at any time to use for yourself, with your colleagues, or with your students. This summer, just this last month, a teacher shared that by filling out the educator canvas, it really helped him internalize and process and view the whole big picture of what he was working on. And he was tackling his problem with student engagement. And so this is a pretty big challenge. And he shared that the educator canvas really helped him break down that challenge and identify multiple takes on what this would look like. So what can you do? What can you do right now? The biggest thing that you can do is to try something, to try anything. Every time that I talk to teachers or young people and they're concerned that their solution might not work, the biggest thing we talk about is the fact that what's happening right now already isn't working. That's why it's a problem. So if you design something and test it, and even if it's not perfect, I guarantee it's going to be better than what was there before. And as you saw in that two truths and a lie, when you test something and it doesn't work, it gives you the opportunity to identify all kinds of more opportunities, right? We get to fail forward, but that test is still better than the nothing that existed before that. And so my invitation to all of you is to take action, to try something. And here are some opportunities for action. Michelle mentioned the Earth Prize. These links are in the slide deck. Michelle, can you share a little overview of the Next Big Idea Challenge and tell us how that is a great opportunity for action and gaining the skills to take action?
Sure. So can you actually go back to the canvas?
Yeah.
Okay. So Darcy and I created this because, we think the best way to, if you want students to innovate, we think the best way to get them to be innovators is to model it. And so while we've done a lot of work with teachers around innovating in the classroom, we've noticed you can take those exact same tools. So if kids want to work on a project in their context, they can. And so, for instance, with the Earth Prize, really we're asking kids to come up with solutions for the planet. So usually they're noticing something that's going on in their community. They want to do something about it, but yet they need to build those skills so they can go from, idea to action. And so just to go over the canvas a little bit, and, when we talk about trying something, usually if you start at the top, you've noticed a problem and you have something you want to try. And so solution can be a strong word. It might just be, what's the idea you would like to implement? And what we wanted to do was create more structure because we noticed that sometimes, both young people and adults kind of get stuck at the idea phase where they don't know how to move the idea forward. And so, for instance, with the Earth Prize, perhaps that you've seen there's a problem with agriculture. Maybe you don't like that your community is using too many fertilizers or pesticides. And so you have an idea in which you would like to redo something so that people learn more organic farming processes. I don't know. So we've noticed people get to this part and then they tend to break down when it comes to actually implementing everything. And so this is why we've broken this down a little bit. So with impact and insights, it's a way to brainstorm about what you want to do. So you take your idea and with impact, you think about some of your short-term goals, like what do you want success to look like and your long-term vision. And so for instance, with this gardening example, maybe some of your short-term goals is that you get students to learn in your school garden how to do some of these organic practices. Maybe your long-term vision is that this is something that's sustainable over time, that community members get involved, that kids grow up and take these practices with them forever. Insights. We ask people to usually get inspiration from what other people are doing. A lot of times when we innovate, we think we need to do everything from scratch, and we reinvent the wheel a lot. Um, and that's not really our goal. So we ask them to look at what other people are doing and to connect with other people that are in the same space, but also to get user input. You know, in that Two Truths or Lie, we talk about assumptions. How can we get feedback from other people, whether it's students, colleagues, parents, whatnot, about our solution and our problem actually? Is this problem we're solving, and is our idea a good idea? And so in any case, whether you're working on an idea yourself or whether you're working with change makers, the same steps apply. And then this two sections is really about logistics and execution. So what do you need to think about so you can actually implement? And for us, we noticed the logistics part was a biggie. Sometimes it's just about writing the tasks, who needs to do what and by when. Who are your critical partners? What are the resources you need and how you can get them? We've seen a lot of people, especially young people, get stuck at the prototyping section because we're not creative about where we can get resources from. And then, of course, execution. So, timeline, having a little bit of strategy with how you approach people or when you do things, relationships you might need to manage. And these were our biggies. And so, I wanted to go back over this because when we do the next big idea challenge, which I can put a link in, is the goal is, the Earth Prize. Kids tend to submit their prize in January. And what we'd like to do is break down the innovation process in a way that's manageable. So we're partnering with Inspire Citizens. They have a changemaker guide, and they will be going more of this ideation piece. And where Darcy and I will go over a little bit more of this, how do you implement piece and give more tips and tricks so we can make that a smoother process. And that is the big idea challenge.
That's great. So there are endless opportunities to take action, right? Every challenge that you face, big or small. And I love how Michelle puts that, like, we need to be just doing this more, practicing it and putting our ideas into action and getting past the um, just the dreaming phase to actually testing something. And so to take a prototype and actually run it through the series of experiments. I have a couple other links in there. ISTE does do an AI Innovator Studio challenge, and there's a Lego challenge. These aren't necessarily things that you need to do with students, but it can give you some ideas on a framework or a series of questions. Even if you don't submit something to these contests, all of these different prizes, these challenges, provide you a great framework and just some opportunities to prompt kids into thinking about what might they do. And so those are opportunities for action. And then try something. I know that I'm making this sound extra simple, but to some extent it is. There's that old adage, if not you, who? And if not now, when? No one else is going to come around and fix these problems for us. When we develop young change makers and help young kids learn how to solve problems and go through the problem solving process, we're preparing them to tackle these big challenges that the world needs them to tackle. But we can start at any level. So again, you will have links to these needs assessments of look for opportunities. What isn't working in your communities? Some of the things that the teachers identified in my incubator this summer is that in a lot of our rural communities, there aren't laundromats. If someone doesn't have access to a washer and dryer, they're just stuck. Well, there are solutions to that because who does have washers and dryers? At least all of the schools here in our rural communities. So to look for those opportunities and to really shift those lens from thinking of problems as problems and thinking of them as opportunities for us to try something, because why not? Here are some general little questions that I use when I ask teachers to think about where might they want to take action. And so half the questions are about what's already working and where might we expand opportunities for things that are going well. Where might students build off of an existing program or an existing idea that is working and be able to expand it, tinker it to fit a new purpose, but also to think about what are the things that aren't working so that we can design solutions to those opportunities. In the Startup Teacher Playbook, we talk about writing a challenge question, of writing that question, how might I or how might we take an action to help someone and to make what impact? As you're building your change makers, as you're tackling challenges, I like to think of the question for me allows you to think of a lot of different answers. This becomes an open-ended question that is really an invitation to brainstorm multiple possibilities of what might you try. When we just jump to, I'm going to do this, we miss a lot of the opportunities for brainstorming and for collaborative thinking and for going into some crazy what ifing. So after I write a challenge question, my favorite game to play is the what if game. And to just what if I could get these different groups to work together? What if I could get this? What if we could do? And to blow up the thinking as much as possible. That will give you an opportunity to write your problem statement. And then you can think about what area you might be working on. Michelle created this graphic, and I think it's really helpful to think about what type of action might you take. Are you trying to change a set of behaviors and a mindset? Are you coming up with a new innovation, a new way for someone to do something, a new system, a new response to the problem? Are you trying to change how people act? Are you trying to create a process to save time? But this nice little graphic can help you hone in. And sometimes it's doing multiple things, right? If we want people to start recycling or composting, we need to design a system that allows them to do that. But we also need to change how people act. And we might need to change some of their attitudes and beliefs around that problem and why composting is something that is easy and efficient and very doable for them. As you plan, I like to write this. It does say write your theory of change. When I work with teachers, I ask them to write a solution hypothesis. So I agree with Michelle that the word solution can sound like a final thing. And so when we do workshops, I call it a solution hypothesis. What is one thing that you're going to try and test and go through the educator canvas to look at all of those pieces of that possible solution, knowing evolve and may take multiple iterations. And so the word hypothesis for me helps soften the word solution and make it more something that I'm going to test and try. And so from your challenge question, you write one statement. What's one thing that you're going to do? So even from this webinar, how might we utilize change maker tools to support our students to see themselves as problem solvers? And one thing that you might do after this is I will brainstorm community problems with my students so that they see all the opportunities that are available to them to take action. And that might be one very simple first step of something that you would do with your team. If you need a little bit more support, that you can go to the startupteacherplaybook.com/resources. All of the tools that we've talked about today are there at that website. They're free, available to download. You can reach out to Michelle or I for email copies of those PDFs. I'm happy to talk to you, to share any resources, and to help you brainstorm how you might launch something like this in your community. We have the Startup Teacher Playbook, which is a full book of every single step through the problem solving process and really how to flip your professional learning to solve the problems that you face on a day-to-day basis. I've also designed something that I'm calling the Joy Journal. It's a 12-month planner that has monthly mindset activities to help you cultivate a more problem-solving, positive mindset of how do we frame and change those lenses from a problem mindset to an opportunity mindset. And it also then has daily to-do lists and some ongoing gratitude and joy activities. If you're interested in one of those planners, please message me and I can hook you up with one. That is the overview of some of the tools and strategies of how to just get started. And I think it was clear. I don't think you have to know every single thing. And as an educator, for me, that was what was always scariest. I felt like I was expected to be the expert in the classroom, right? I'm the teacher. And so launching into a problem solving process can be nerve wracking because I didn't have the answer. I didn't always even know where we were going to go in the process, right? Because we were discovering the solutions together. And that can be really uncomfortable when you're used to being the keeper of the knowledge. But this is a beautiful gift for students to really lean into your purpose as an educator or a grown-up mentor, where you can help students find their purpose, their passions, and remind them that they have the power, the responsibility, the right to take action around things that aren't working for themselves and the people around them.